moment, especially in a collaboration where you're working on a story, you're trying to crack a story, you're trying to fit the pieces together, you're trying to just understand people and humans and characters better, and you have an epiphany, and like it hits you right in the heart, and suddenly you feel connected to what it means to be a person, for at least just for that fleeting brief moment. And like that pop of understanding is kind of like a drug. And, you know, whether I'm narrating an audiobook or working on a script with a friend, or, you know, on set or rehearsing for a play, that's really what I'm chasing. It's actually one of the reasons I don't really want to do theater much anymore, is because I don't like performing that much. Like I hate the moment when rehearsal ends and they're like, okay, cool, we've decided that this is close enough, try to replicate this as closely as you can night after night in front of a bunch of people. I don't enjoy being up in front of people enough for that to sustain me. So I never learned how to deal with that break, that hard break from this magical collaborative rehearsal process where you're just diving into character motivations and you know, story arcs, and pulling these things apart and investigating and prodding, like a humanitarian, humanities, not humanitarian, like a humanities detective. And then all of a sudden it's like, cool, now just perform in front of people. The buzz from being up on stage and I don't know, watched, it wasn't really enough. So that's why I like movies, because it's kind of all the discovery. You know, the best stuff happens when the cameras roll and they catch you mid-process. They catch you in that moment where you realize what a scene's about, or realize what a character's going through. And not only that, but it hits you in your gut and comes out of your face and you experience it. That's what I'm kind of addicted to. And honestly, I can find it whether I'm doing a Whole Foods commercial or whether I'm doing an audiobook, like that moment where it's like, I figured out the puzzle. So, I mean, that's essentially what I've come around to why I do what I do, to borrow a line from A Ghost Waits. But
yes, sir. Yeah, I remember those days. I'm with you. Like you, I also did some stage acting myself, and for me, film was always at first it was the easier thing to do. Like, you know, like the everybody, they say the same shit all the time. You know, you can't fuck up on stage. You can fuck up a few times behind camera, and it's not the end of the world. You know, and I think upon doing that. Like you were saying, you can find it upon messing up or ruining a take or whatever. You can find the art that wasn't there the previous take before, and you're finding another method to do it. You're finding another way to connect with people. You're finding another way to entertain. So I am 100% with you on that. I went from the stage to behind the camera, and I feel a lot more comfortable. I didn't mind doing plays. It just, I don't know. There's something that, for whatever reason, and it's not that it's true or untrue, it's just I feel like there's more longevity. There's something more universal about film than there is stage play. I still think there's a handful of people that are just like, I'm not going to a stage play. I'm not going to an opera. I'll go see a movie though. Are there going to be Transformers in it? You know, like it's just it's one of those things. I wish that, you know, we were slightly more cultured so that it was more popular than it was. But it's like, you know, there's only one Broadway. How many places do you hear about that in Michigan or Ohio, or, you know, not that there's not good stages there. It's just it doesn't have the same all-encompassing thing that a movie does. So
sure,
I'm with you.
Well, let me ask you a question. There's a thing I've thought about or wondered about a lot with regard to films, especially in the cinema. Do you think that it's kind of going the way of theater? Like,
yeah,
whether it be attention spans, it's kind of the next art form to be somewhat. I mean, movie tickets, well, I mean, there are no movie tickets anymore during the pandemic, but, you know, they were getting pretty expensive to the point where, you know, to take your family out to see a film could be like $100.
Yeah, dude. To see a movie at ArcLight in the dome, I was there last year. It's like $18.25, or like 2 years ago. It was like $18.25, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on here? This is just for one ticket. One ticket. It's not even a 3D film. It's not even a 4D where the fucking chairs shake as, you know, an explosion happens or something." But no, yeah, I'm with you. As far as the answer to the question, man, I mean, obviously, if I'm doing a show, so I guess I'll try to make this answer as brief as possible. So this whole show started because of some of the things that you're mentioning right now. So the attention spans, like, and I'm not here to shit on anyone. Like, I'm not going to be like, well, you younger crowds, you don't appreciate. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
Even though to some extent, I do think you need to admit that the 20-something, late teens, 20-somethings, you may have put the nail in the coffin for theater going. I'm not going to say movies, but you may have put the nail in the coffin for theater going. And it's just, I go back and forth on it. You know, on the one hand, like, it's been something that has been like a thing that I do. It is a part of who I am. Going to see movies, you know, ever since I can remember. Like, I collect movies, even when I'm not talking about movies. I'm probably watching a movie, even if I'm not doing a show on it, so on and so forth. And I had mentioned this on a podcast I did a couple weeks ago. Godzilla versus Kong. So when I started watching that, I actually felt terrible for the first 15 minutes of the film. I went, you are being everything that you talk about on your show being against. And I guess if you would have asked me that question February of 2020, I'd have been like, nah, man, go to the theater. What, you guys get off of YouTube. Nobody cares. You know, like, I would have been spouting some different stuff. People change, you know. People, my favorite color was green, and then when I died, it was pink. Ghost waits, hello. You know, people change. But now that I see, like, my biggest thing that I think hurts the most is that I think the people that are even streaming movies, some of the younger crowd or whatever, do you even know that there used to be a communal experience that existed prior to streaming? Like, when you go see a horror film with 500 other people or whatever, like, that adds to your experience, or a Marvel movie or whatever your fancy is. Sitting at home by yourself, not that you can't enjoy it, but I do think it alters the way that you receive the information, or the way that you're watching it. I think that I'm not going to say it can make or break if you like the film or not, but I do think like Godzilla versus Kong, going back to that, I think I would have, instead of really liked, because you would think that I'm a fan of those movies, but for the most part I thought that they were meh, and I thought Godzilla versus Kong was really, really fun. I know for a fact that I would have liked it better had I saw it in the theater. So I'm very oh,
without question.
Yeah, just apprehensive about the whole thing. Like, I don't think we can fight it anymore, but like, if I would have saw a Ghost Waits in the theater with, you know, 10 of my friends, I would have liked it even more than I do now. And I already, like I said in the beginning of the show, this is no bullshit. This is no horseshit, Wang. This is one of my favorite films of the year. I'm not, and it's so weird to say because this movie was shot in like 2016, right? And then
yeah, I think
premiered in Glasgow in March of 2020, and then the entire world shut down, and now we're seeing it in 2021. Well, you know, movies are just, that's movie magic, babe. But I just would have, I wish I would have saw it in, well, I don't know if I would have wanted people to see me like sobbing at the end, but because I was, the first time I watched it, dude, I won't get
the communal experience.
I only started crying because you were crying. I was like, yeah, that's how that works. You know what? We'll get into what the ending did to me here in a second. So I guess sticking with a ghost waits. Actually, no. I want your opinion. I'm sorry. See, this is that droning on that I was talking about. What are your thoughts on it? Are like, hey, if somebody's going to watch my film, watch it however you find it, or does it make you sad that, like, hey, I want to see my face 35 feet high, and you know?
I'm just collecting myself.
That's all right.
Yes, to your first point, I don't care how people absorb it or watch it. I'm grateful for any way they find it. I'm certainly not the type to blame the audience or to blame people for, you know, how they like to enjoy content, or even what content they like to enjoy. The audiences are the problem. It kind of drives me up a wall. It just feels super entitled to me. So yeah, I don't care. I can say I was really bummed I wasn't able to see it in Glasgow at its premiere, with, like, I think an audience of, how many people was it? A huge audience. There was like hundreds of people.
Huge audience, and they were loving it. They were absolutely loving it.
So I mean, the reason I couldn't was because of the birth of my daughter. So I would never make a different choice.
Yeah, that wins. That wins for sure.
That wins. But yeah, that was a blow. That after, like, you know, 5 years working on this with Adam, I couldn't see it in a theater. You know, after the process was more or less done. Like, I mean, that's one of the things with films this size. You're kind of never done until you have to be done. You keep on noodling. You keep on tweaking little things here. You screen it for some people in a theater, and then you go, okay, here's the things that didn't work. Here's where we can tighten it. Here's where we can fix some sound cues. I got to see it on a drive-in screen.
No way.
Yeah. In LA at Screamfest, because in the middle of the pandemic, they said, how do we keep the festival alive? Like, how do we keep it running? How do we still, and they really didn't want to go digital. Though I'm grateful for all the festivals that did go digital any way they could show movies and stay alive. I mean, we're indebted to them. This movie, you wouldn't have seen this movie if not for festivals finding a way to make it work. But Screamfest in LA, they said, all right, we can't do it in a theater, the theater that they usually do it in, but we're gonna just suck up the extra cost of doing it in drive-ins. And they did the whole festival at drive-ins, and it blew my mind. I was so filled with joy when they said they were gonna do drive-in theaters, and I talked with them on the phone. I was like, so drive-ins, perfect, amazing. They're like, well, we'd still like to do it in the theater. And I was like, what? No, drive-in is perfect for this movie. You kidding? A, like, low-budget horror film, horror light multi-genre film. It filled me with so much joy to see it at a drive-in. I think that was the coolest thing I can imagine. And it, you know, again, it sort of sucked. We couldn't really get out of our cars and see other people and feel how they were reacting. You know, like, the ending came and I thought I heard someone in another car laugh, but it's possible they were sobbing.
That person is canceled. I don't know who that is, but that person is canceled.
But I couldn't know because they were, you know, we didn't have that full communal experience. I mean, I think it's been a long time since I've been in a theater, but the times it's meant the most to me is, I think, in my lowest point in my life, I just started going to Lemley. You know, I just saw everything that was in the Lemley Theater here in LA, which is like an indie film house. And it was just, it helped keep me afloat. You know, it helped me dive into other people's lives and get out of myself for like 2 hours, like, because I hated myself at the time. And so I was just so grateful to have a place where I could go be alone amongst other people and experience something other than me. I hope that never goes away.
Yeah, there is something. Yeah, I feel 100% the same way that if if I'm going to turn my brain off, or if I'm going to forget about me, not turn my brain off. If I'm going to forget about me, I do want it to be in that setting where like we all made the decision to see this particular film that we're seeing in the theater together.